Welcome back. Now, industry leaders and policymakers have gathered in Kigali, Rwanda for the second edition of the African Continental Free Trade Area Business Forum. This in efforts to advance the agreement with the theme, Dare to Invent the Future of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Andrew Robertson, Head of Business and Enablement at Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking, joins us now with his perspective on the primary task of this agreement. Andrew, thanks so much for your time today. As mentioned, today the Biashara Business Forum kicks off in Kigali. Right at the top, take us through some of the key discussion points taking place today.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me. I think it was an action-packed first day. If you consider that AFCFTA kicked off in 2018, there's been quite a lot of progress made since that time. And those were the key discussion points today, really reflecting on how this has moved from being an idea into practical implementation. So really good examples shared, not just by policymakers, but by clients themselves, business owners, and that is really something to reflect on positively.
I want to touch on the theme there, Dare to Invent the Future of the African Continental Free Trade Area. According to Standard Bank, what does that future look like?
So I think that from a Africa Free Trade Agreement perspective, you've got to remember that this is the biggest trade bloc by participating countries in the world. So we have 54 member states that have signed up. None of them are homogenous. So, you know, this really requires a lot of effort by stakeholders, whether they are at government level, in the private arena, to work together to harmonize trade across border. And when you're dealing with 54 countries, that's quite a challenge. So from a Standard Bank perspective, it really fits, you know, well in our theme of Africa is our home, we drive her growth. And so certainly a strong alignment there for us.
Talk to us about those challenges, you know, that are in the way, blocking the progress of that agreement.
So going back to the 54 member states that I mentioned, goods flowing across border and across into different markets is complex. Each country has its own regulatory environment. There are different custom unions at play, there are different tariffs that apply. So one of the biggest challenges from an infrastructure perspective is certainly harmonizing those trade environments, the tariffs and cross-border flows. So ports and technology that simplifies and enables the ease with which goods can be cleared through customs and move between countries are significant challenges that need to be overcome. But we heard today positive strides that are being made. Equally, we did hear some of the challenges, but that's good. That shows that this isn't just a good news story. Business owners sharing practical ways in which the AFCFTA can be improved, and that's really positive.
Clearly, more work really needs to be done. We talk about these challenges around infrastructure, around financing as well. How is Standard Bank leveraging its extensive presence in Africa to facilitate, cross-border trade as well as investment?
Absolutely. From a Standard Bank perspective, we are the largest bank on the continent by assets. We have a strong presence in 20 markets. And when you think about that phrase of Africa is our home, we drive her growth, we are truly committed to that. So the way in which we connect in business ecosystems, the way in which we participate in value chains to connect businesses to one another, to simplify those trade flows across border. It's part of who we are and what we do. So turning possibility into opportunity is really how we show up in all of our markets.
Andrew, touching on some of those conversations that have been taking place at the conference, I'm sure intra-Africa trade was, one of those pillars that were touched on today. How are we looking at improving that, considering that, intra-Africa trade sits at a low rate of 16%?
So I think we recognize that at 16%, the number is certainly lower than it should be. But what was positive to see today is the practical steps that are being discussed. Specifically, if you take the guided trade initiative framework that was established, 7 member states signed up to that originally, and that's now been expanded to 29. There are 23 product sets that where tariff guides have been established for flow of goods across border. Transactions are starting to flow practically now between countries and businesses, and although it might be slow steps to start with, they are certainly meaningful steps, and there's clear momentum and effort to build on that.
Now, Andrew, before I let you go, the conference did kick off today, but we still have 2 more days to come. So what can we look out for in the coming 2 days?
So I think in the coming 2 days, lots more discussions around the work that has been done, the challenges that have been faced. I think there is a mix of both governmental stakeholders participating as well as business participants. And so I think the dialogue between all of the stakeholders that need to work together to bring AfCFTA to life and take it to that next step. There are going to be some really exciting debates and discussions the next 2 days. So certainly looking forward to bringing some feedback on that.
So clearly collaboration at the heart of what's taking place in Kigali over the next few days. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today and just taking us through day 1 of the forum. We look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow. That was Andrew Robertson, Head of Business and Enablement at Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking.